levels have gradually declined, and the Progress International Reading Literacy Study results show us that this bears testament to that. This year's PIRLS results were even more concerning. The study revealed that South Africa's grade 4 learners came last among the 57 countries that were assessed for reading for comprehension skills. This is concerning for the nation, and serious work the country's education needs to be done. So most of us are familiar with Nal'ibali, a nationally based organization working across all the provinces to build a culture of reading for enjoyment within homes and communities, focusing on young children up to 12 years of age. And Dr. Gabrielle Kelly is the head of research, impact and innovation, as well as Madoda Nhlabuse, project coordinator in the Eastern Cape. We welcome you to the program. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, sir.
Right, Gabrielle, perhaps let's start with you. What were your views and internal conversations on the PIRLS results that were released this year, and why are they so pointing to a country that is regressing?
Well, yes, I mean, the Pulse study, created a big storm in the literacy sector and grave concern within government and has led to kind of a big response and a lot of brainstorming around what can be done in this space. It's obviously very concerning that we've had a decrease since 2016 in the percentage of children that can read for meaning, and it's particularly concerning because it was not able to read for meaning in any language, and that children that aren't learning to read, usually by grade 1 or grade 2, are perpetually in catch-up mode. They're really struggling, and if to make sense of things, to read quickly enough for comprehension. And so if by grade 4 they aren't able to read for comprehension, it has really negative consequences for longer term learning, people's attitudes and motivation towards reading, which are so important in being able to process and access information and obviously achieve well academically.
And Madoda, to also bring you into the conversation, the matter of the South African grade 4 learners who can't read for comprehension is no breaking news, really, and the decline has been gradual. The inability to read and write is not only a grade 4 learners issue in South Africa, because this starts at home, and most homes have not cultivated a reading culture. What are the barriers, perhaps, in your experience on the ground?
Thank you so much, sir, for that beautiful question. In our communities, we are still having serious problems. For example, as my colleagues just alluded about, the general motivation to read or to actually be involved in learning. It's such a problem. For example, yes, we've been preaching this gospel of promoting the culture of reading in the communities. But most people, they just are not keen, to take up with us what we've been promoting, especially in our communities. And maybe crime or maybe violence can also be another problem. There are issues of nutrition. There are issues of low self-esteem, etc., etc. It's a lot that is going on. It's not easy for some of our people, but of course, as Nal'ibali, we are doing our best to combat that. We are doing our best to make sure that most people, especially parents and even men, are involved in making sure that we are in a stable reading culture.
And you just led me straight to my next question, because I'm keen on finding out about your engagements with the communities in KwaNobuhle, for instance, and the involvement of men in this particular project.
Yeah, early last year, I believe it was around May 2022, we started what is known as the Men's Literacy Imbizo. The main aim of the project is making sure that we are involving all the men, so that they can be involved in their children's education. They can be involved into making sure that, children academically, they are doing well, and also in the literacy development, they are part And we were very, very fortunate, to have a pool of men from different respects. For example, we've got men that are already in the literacy spaces, literacy ambassadors. We've got social workers, we've got writers, we've got even pastors, we've got men that are considered exemplary in the community setup. And I must say that that project is working wonders. I remember one of the guys who was a station manager in one of the local radio stations. He vowed to be involved not only in his daughter's academic and literacy space, but also in the community. He even wrote a children's storybook so that he can accommodate the whole entire community of Konobushe because of the inspiration and the motivation that was so high level that he received during one of our first ever men's literacy in Bizo.
Tell you what, that's really inspiring. And Gabrielle, tell us about your partnership last year with funders in conducting a reading barometer on reading and writing behavior. What did the data show you?
Well, so yeah, the National Reading Barometer and Survey was a national level study to look at what is the reading ecosystem look like. Nal'ibali and our partners believe that, it's not just within schools that reading needs to happen, it's within communities, within homes, within early childhood development centers, libraries. There's a role that publishing, etc. play. And so we were looking at the space and what it looks like. And we were also looking at adults' relationship with reading. So Nal'ibali typically focuses on children and encouraging children to read, but parents, community leaders, other caregivers provide a really important role, or play an important role in terms of modeling reading and creating this culture and creating opportunities for children to read or to be read to. So we took a very broad view of reading and included all kinds of reading that people do, not only long texts, etc. And we found that people are reading more than we typically think that they are as a South African culture. But there are significant barriers to reading, building reading culture, and for people to read regularly, which are kind of barriers to access to reading materials being kind of a really, really strong component. Also things like people's confidence in reading. Whilst people were very aware that reading to children and reading with children is really important in kind of educational outcomes, there wasn't only 55% of parents were reading to their children. So that shows there's this big gap between understanding of what we know is important in terms of reading and what people are actually able to practice. So there are all these system barriers that exist that requires kind of a multi-sectoral response to address that not only includes government, but also includes our community and our society that to kind of value reading and make sure that it's part of our everyday lives, and that we are spending those 5 minutes reading to children and making sure that we all do our bit to ensure that children have access to materials in their home language, because that is really important in terms of motivation to read and reading for enjoyment.
And I want us to delve into how do we make reading more appealing, especially now that you've touched on people being able to read in their home languages.
I love that because as Nal'ibali, in some of our community projects, especially in Kwanobushe and also in Limpopo, we've got a project known as Project Liedo, as well as Ingqondi Zeqhaqhiwa, which are the children's storybooks, the content like illustrations, the stories, the letters, everything that is inside those books is coming from the children themselves. What we are doing as Nal'ibali is just to offer the motivation, we offer, the workshops, the illustration and creative writing, and then children, they just express what is on their hearts about the state of affairs. And we love that because children, they are so inspired to see writers. Imagine if a writer is not just a famous celebrity, but it is just someone from their own neighborhood, at the back of their heart. So much more motivation for these children. And of course, still, this content is right here in their mother tongue. That is making them able to, to socialize with the content, to understand, and of course to inquire if there is something that they do not understand about that. So as Nal'ibali, we are proud, to be visible as a strategic partner, even to DBE. To make sure that we play a great role in multilingualism and the promotion of indigenous mother language.
And of course, Gabrielle, just to bring you in again, you did say that Nal'ibali works with parents as well as early childhood developers and teachers in working to promote reading. Speak to us about this holistic approach that you guys have adapted, also focusing not only on phonetics, but also just this holistic approach.
Yes, so we believe that learning to read starts pretty much from the womb. It's really important that children from a very young age are spoken with, are told stories, are read to, so they, there's in terms of kind of language acquisition and development, and understanding how narrative and how stories fit together and developing an appreciation of that is really important. It's also developing a connection with a parent around reading. It's like a bonding experience that then children come to think reading is, something kind of enjoyable and nice that they have a positive association with. And so it's really important that that's built within the home. But then, and that also that reading, we're not just letting children kind of not be exposed to books and stories until they get to grade 1. So early childhood development, the government is putting a lot of emphasis and internationally a lot of emphasis in the important stage of early childhood in terms of brain development, in terms of acquiring early literacy and numeracy skills. So we do a lot of training with early childhood development practitioners to do reading aloud with children, to build vocabulary, to build those skills, with the idea that then children kind of understand books, how they work, what their value is before, and have been exposed to a lot of words and context and background information, which is really critical in reading for information, before they're getting then to the hard work of kind of breaking down and doing kind of a phonics approach in grade 1, because that work is not always the most exciting part of learning to read, so kind of children having this bigger picture and this more like holistic understanding of reading, and then at the same time that there's the resources available in classrooms to promote that, and within early childhood development centres, and then within the classroom setting, when they get to grade 1 to grade 3, it's about equipping teachers to value reading within the classroom space, and to ensure that, again, there are the materials there that are going to engage children, that they're able to take those materials home, have access to materials within the home setting so that they can read for enjoyment, that they have access to libraries. Librarians play a really critical and often unfunded and unrecognized role within communities in terms of running reading programs and encouraging children to read. And then, there's also, community leaders, businesses. They're all a really important role that people can play in supporting reading culture. Reading culture has been shown to be such a culture of reading enjoyment has been shown to have such a strong influence on reading behavior. And reading behavior, reading regularly, is really what drives the acquisition of those skills and the practicing of those skills that children can flourish and learn from reading, and then hopefully engage in a journey of lifelong reading and learning throughout their lives.
And Madoda, let's bring you back into the conversation. We are getting into a new school year and results have come out in most cases, and parents are quite anxious right now for their children to really do better, and affluent parents can afford to take their children to after-hours private institutions, and others even get them tutors. So what should parents and learners who don't have that privilege do to improve their reading and comprehension?
Sorry,